It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchende. Thanks for joining us. The month of June is pretty much halfway gone, I think. We still have about 2 weeks to go. And then the first half of the year would be gone. And for a lot of people, it still throws up a lot of concerns with regards to Mr. President and his health. The better part of this year has been spent by him outside of Nigeria trying to recover, using that word. I think that's probably the safest word to use at this point. And he's been out of the country now for about a month, and nothing has been heard from him. Nobody seems to know how good or bad he's doing with regards to his recovery. A lot of us, the last time when he went away, we saw pictures taking visitors coming to see him and all of that. This time he's been in London and not a word with regards to how well he's doing or whether he will be coming back, when and how. And I don't know that it's a very healthy situation for Nigerians to be in. As much as things are stable relatively back home with an acting president in charge of the country, it's only fair that Nigerians have an idea where the president they elected is. And I think it's getting very worrying. And as we do wish Mr. President a speedy recovery, and hopefully he does get back to continue the duties that he was elected to run. But it would only be fair that Nigerians do have an idea, at least, the situation of their president. And I don't know that this happens anywhere else in the world, to be honest, where you elect a president and you have no idea. I don't know. It's just needless to get out of my chest. Well, we're going to be looking at the week that was, as we always do, looking back at the things that caught our attention over the past week. And I have you with me, Jude Egbas. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Enough of President Buhari. I just needed to vent there. But let's go on to pretty much the hottest topic in the week all over the country, and it's about Evans.
Yeah, Evans.
The name that has suddenly become the name of terror in Nigeria. Yeah. We did find out that he was behind multi-million dollar, not even naira now, kidnappings over the years across the country. And a few people even have died in a situation. There were interviews with him where he said, "Oh, I never killed anybody," but we know that they've been reported deaths over time. And it's just been a bizarre series of stories that have come out of this situation, hasn't it?
Yeah, and just yesterday, his wife blessed us with a selfie where the entire family was in cheers and all of that. But I think this is just sad at this time that this guy was able to have this kind of kidnapping ring with billions of dollars. You know, he was actually charging in dollars because he said he wanted to stand out. And he was so brazen about it that it took the police this long, to get him is the main worry. And my major fear is that there are so many Evans out there. I mean, he probably didn't do this alone. He probably had a school, and the fear is that he bred so many other people who will take after him. So the police have a big job on their hands trying to rein in these other guys, because one Evans is gone. I can assure you there are so many Evans out there.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he even said himself that, he had a group of people. Some of them didn't even know the other groups. There were groups who picked up the money, some held the hostages. So he had a complete ring of people.
It was a big syndicate.
And I don't know that all of them have been caught. And like you said, he was also working for someone at some point. He was in Edo State at some point. He was in Anambra. So he's been in this for a long time. But before we even get to, what should be happening going forward, like you said, the fact that it took this long, as much as we commend the police for finally tracking him down and getting him alive to let us understand how this works, the fact that it took this long and money had been exchanging hands over the years and there was no way to get him, we should worry about
we should really worry about that. And for me, that's a very big concern. It took up close to 10 years to be able to get him, and imagine how many lives have been lost, how many families
been devastated financially
by this guy. And you look at this guy, he doesn't look like someone who could kidnap anyone. I mean, neighbors attest to the fact that sometimes he jogs with them, sometimes he just looks like the guy next door. But, like I said somewhere else, beyond this facade was a cold-blooded kidnapper. And for all it's worth, I think we should keep him to get a lot, because I know he has a lot to say. He's giving so many interviews, but I'm sure that he still has a lot to get off his chest. I think if we want to crack this kidnapping ring, Evans is key, and he should be a star witness in the next couple of years. Yeah.
The Nigerian police have done their job now. People have always worried about the judicial system in Nigeria for a lot of reasons. We've seen the anti-corruption fight as one, where people have been arrested. Prosecution then becomes the issue, and we hear 5, 10, 15 years down the line, a case is still ongoing. Should we start getting worried? Because it's looking like a pretty an interesting show now.
Yeah.
Reality show.
Yeah.
There's an interview every day. There are pictures taken. Like you said, the wife releases a selfie.
Yeah.
It's beginning to look like a show.
Like a show.
And people are starting to get worried. Will this guy actually, will justice actually prevail at the end of the day? What should the judiciary be doing?
I can't bet my money on it. I mean, we've seen in the not too distant past where we think someone is guilty, and the next thing they're out there on bail. I mean, so the like you said, the judicial system is a problem. All Evans needs is a good defense lawyer, a crack defense lawyer, plenty of money. I'm sure he still has a lot of money. And the next thing you hear, he's found not guilty based on technicalities. I mean, we've seen it over and over. I hope it doesn't come to that. But this is all a show we are enjoying. But at the end of the day, is the police going to secure a conviction? Is another worry, and it's another big question. But let's wait and see.
Yeah. Talking about going forward now, like you mentioned earlier, how do we start tracking down and, getting confidence back in the police? I mean, they've done a good job eventually with this one, but like you said, there's definitely a lot of people out there. And I've also been worried about how much has been said with regards to this particular case. I mean, victims have been named with surnames, with figures attached to them. We're starting to get worried, like, okay, how do we know that these people will not be retracted again?
Yeah.
So a lot has been said about how his exploits have been planned. People might start to replicate these things. These are genuine worries by a lot of people.
Yeah. But the major concern from what you said for me is the way the media has reported it, because you made mention of people being named and the monies that were taken from them by Vance also put alongside their names. I think the media should be very responsible how this is reported, because you're putting those guys in harm's way. I mean, those people who have been named and all of that. Other kidnappers out there will say, wow, this guy has so much money, maybe there's still some left, and go after. So I think I want to appeal to the media that we should be responsible in putting the people's names and names of family members of people out there, because in the end, we're not doing them any good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's a very bizarre case, and we're just hoping that justice does prevail in this one, especially for the families that have been affected over the years, and hopefully the judiciary just sit up to their duties with this one. Let's move away from that now and go on to Mr. Senate President Bukola Saraki, who from the day he became Senate President has been in turbulent waters, from one case to the other. At the beginning of his Senate presidency, it looked like it wasn't going to last a month. Yeah. Because they kept throwing case after case at him, and there was even a talk about, is his mandate legitimate, and all of that. But this week we found out that the Code of Conduct Tribunal has said he has no case to answer.
And he rode the whole storm very well, From the moment he was taken to the Code of Conduct Tribunal for not declaring or improper declaration of his assets, for this declaration of assets, he's been very calm about it. Or at some point, 50 lawmakers will follow him to the courtrooms and all of that. There was so much drama. He kept saying it was a political witch hunt. And he said himself this week that he's been vindicated, And like we said earlier, he won. I mean, technicalities again, all over again, that word. The no case submission triumphed over whatever case the federal government put out there against him. And I also think, looking back at all of this, that this was down to poor prosecution or lack of diligent prosecution on the part of the anti-graft agencies and on the part of the federal government. Because I don't think that the evidence they had against Saraki was that watertight. And we were entertained for how many years again? And he's walked away, and a lot of people will walk away. I mean, as long as the prosecution isn't diligent, as long as the cases against people who have been accused isn't tight, people will keep walking away. Yeah.
I know it's nice to talk about all of this in a fair way, but looking into the meat of it, which we've all sort of known / speculated over the years, is this as much a win for Bukola Saraki as it is a loss for President Buhari and Bola Tinubu, for example? Those are the two names that have always come up when this case comes up, with the infighting that's been going on in the APC.
Yeah, it's all of the above. A win for Bukola Saraki, a loss for the president's anti-corruption work, because I don't think he secured a big name conviction yet. I know of the former governor of, I think, Adamawa State. That's about it. And that's because that politician didn't have a base. So, but every other person, you won't be surprised that someday we'll hear that Dasuki's out there. And I'm not saying he's guilty, but don't be surprised if someday Dasuki walks. Don't be surprised if someday all the other guys who have been tried for corruption from the Goodluck Jonathan era work as well. I know the presidency keeps saying that they have to reform the judiciary, and we're here when some lawyers, I mean some judges were arrested. So it's a whole different mix, you know, in this whole thing. The judiciary is suffering from corruption as well, lack of diligent prosecution from the federal government, and if you have money, you get a good lawyer, can assure you, you'll work.
Yeah. What does this do for 2019 now? Because I mean, a lot of people have always said that all of this drama, even from Senate President Bukola Saraki running for the seat of Senate President, always boiled down to him wanting to be president in 2019. Yeah. Then all of this drama came up. It looked like he was sort of out of the running now. He's built his base sort of back again. Yeah. He's loved by people in Kwara State. He's suddenly becoming this nationalist, you know, always talking about, you know, fighting for the people. Do you think it changes the shape of things to come in 2019? I mean, President Buhari, we don't know if he's going to run or not yet. Osinbajo's name has been thrown in there. Vice President Osinbajo has been thrown in there a few times. Bola Tinubu's name comes up a few times. Governor El Rufai. But Senate President Saraki now, how strong a contender could he be?
Yeah, he'll be there or thereabout when time comes for the APC to choose a. He's had the ambition for as long as anyone can remember, and himself and Atiku, I think they've carried their ambitions this far, and they'll give anything to be in the race in 2019. And given that President Buhari is struggling with his health at this time,
it could be a very open race.
Yeah, it will be an open race, and I foresee a situation where Buhari doesn't run. I hope he doesn't, for his sake and for the sake of his health. And I doubt that will happen. Ask Osinbajo to complete his 8-year term. I doubt that will happen, given the geopolitical war and everything. I don't think the North will take that lightly. And to complete Buhari's term, it will go to the North. And like you said, Saraki is in the running. He's a Northerner. Whether he speaks Yoruba or not, it doesn't matter at this point. Atiku will also make. So it's going to be very interesting. I think by next year we're going to begin to see a very frenetic.
Late this year, knowing Nigeria.
Yeah, knowing Nigeria is going to be, especially if the president doesn't make a return anytime soon. Yeah. You know, there will be all kinds of conjectures, all kinds of recalibration of the political space and all of that. So we are in for a very dramatic next 2 years.
Well, speaking of dramatic and speaking of the elections, before we go now very quickly, we did hear from Governor Fayose, Ekiti State Governor, also saying that he's thrown his hat in there already. Yeah, the PDP seems to be going through a lot of trouble. Yeah. And we don't seem to understand what's really happening with the party. But he's like the most vocal sort of opposition of the federal government these days. I mean, he has a shot, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's thrown the name of God in there. He says God has told him he will be president. And he keeps saying that at this point, I have learned not to take Fayose lightly. I take him very seriously, as a matter of fact. He keeps saying that no one gave him a chance to come back as governor after he was thrown.
Which is very true.
Yeah, and he did it. He beat an incumbent in all local governments. So when it comes to Fayose, all bets are off. And he's one guy I have learned to really study, the kind of Amala politics and he runs. Which
it appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah, it appeals to stomach infrastructure kind of politics. People love him, and I don't know if he has that love around the country, but man, if he plays it the way he's been playing it in Ekiti, you can't count him out.
Wow, tells you a lot about Nigeria that in 2017, June 2017, we're already talking about 2019 because, I mean, in this country, elections only last for 2 years. Yeah. And another cycle begins. Thanks very much, Jude, for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back with more right here on Rubbin Minds. Please stay with us.